Good afternoon, grad stars. Thank you for joining us today. And well done. All of you here are part of the 2020 Top 500 Absa grad stars. Congratulations. You should be very proud of yourselves. And congratulations and thank you for seizing the next opportunity afforded to you in your quest for employment. Life is all about taking the chances when they appear, and I'm delighted to see so many of you here today. 231, my board says. That's half of all of the top 500. Well done. So, whilst you're here, take your opportunities. Listen to what Absa have to say and ask them, listen to them. They're one of the largest, one of the best, one of the biggest South African employers. If there's any time that you want to know, if there's any time that you can take to find out about future employment and the new normal and how organizations are changing and adapting, this is a direct access to people who can really help you. This is your chance to learn and grow and find out what employers expect from young people entering the workplace today. So the chat function is working, so you're all welcome to use it throughout the session. Take this opportunity to ask, and during this session, I will try and address as many questions as I can. In the meantime, please let us know in the chat who you are, where you're from, what you're studying, any other interesting facts about yourself, when you're graduating. And also, please, everybody take note of our social media handles. Follow us, like us, #GradStar2020. And without any further ado, let's move on to the interview itself. We have three amazing representatives from the Absa team. And I'd like to welcome, first of all, Zani Mashinini, the Group Lead Talent Management at Absa. Welcome, Zani. Zani has a collective of 22 years of experience in the HR field. She has a passion for crafting her skill and has exposed herself in many diverse contexts. She has worked for over 15 corporations across diverse industries and has had the amazing opportunity to have worked in multiple destinations around the world. This lady has a lot of experience and knowledge that you guys can lean on and draw from. She has an industrial psychology degree from Rhodes University, and she's completing her master's in coaching. She describes herself as an especially enthusiastic about helping people craft meaningful career experiences, and even more, she's so passionate about the youth and the young talent of South Africa. Zani, welcome. Zani, can you click your video on? Okay, I think we're having a little bit of trouble with Zani's audio. So maybe if we can just move on to the next one, and then we will come back to Zani if we can get her audio sorted. Nishan, are you ready? Can we move on to Nishan? Awesome, thank you. Nishan is the group lead of learning at Absa. He has a rich history in the human resource domain and a key focus on learning. Nishan is always at the heart and soul of learning and development for Team Absa. Always abreast of the latest learning trends, he ensures that Absa is at the forefront of all developments that will allow for easy access and learning for all. Nishan, can we welcome you onto the stage? Aha, hello. How are you, Nishan? I think your audio is off.
I've got it on. Can you hear me?
Excellent. We can hear you perfectly now.
There we go.
Hi. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving your time to the almost 250 top 500 grad stars that are with us today.
Thank you.
So I hear your... Sorry, go on.
No, I just want to say thank you for the platform. It's always great to interact with the next generation stepping into the corporate world. Yeah, it seems like many moons ago for myself. But again, welcome to everyone. And hopefully, yeah, we have a good conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the theme that we wanted to speak about with you, and we did some research with the grad stars prior to this event, and we asked them, we were like, what do you want to know? What's important to you right now in these uncertain times? We don't know what's going on with learning. We don't know what's going on with grad programs. We don't know what's going on with the future. How, if we were to give you this platform as young people, what would you ask corporates? And one of the biggest things that I wanted to know is how do they get workplace ready in the new normal? And I think that's something that you've got quite a lot of experience addressing, Nishen.
Cool. So thank you for that. So one of the important things I think we need to understand is that learning doesn't change. The way you actually learn is potentially what is going to change. So for example, back in my day, it was a lot of traditional learning, classroom time, versus where we currently stand, where it's digitally based learning. So if you want to get ready for the market space, the bottom line is learning continuous. And if you want to build your career, you've got to look at continuous learning. At every single point in your journey, I think you need to kind of sit back and have a sense of what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. And what are those learning opportunities that are going to be along the way that you could start grabbing? And if I have to give you a quick example, so from my personal experience, I currently have 5 qualifications. And each one of those qualifications are kind of based on what I needed to achieve at that particular point in time. So as I got into the work environment, one of the key things to understand is development just doesn't come to you. So you're not entitled to development. When you're in the corporate space, you've got to develop. Call it the P process, performance development process. And P always comes before the D. And I think that's an important thing for us to understand, in that once you give to an organization, you start getting, all right? But now there's always that challenge between you're now in varsity. How do you prepare yourself so that you are ready for that work environment? Some of the things that colleagues should start looking at, or our graduates should start looking at, is what are the future skills that organizations are looking for? Or what are the critical skills across the country? We live in South Africa. What are those critical skills that organizations are looking for? And prepare those skills for themselves to be able to step into that work environment. And how can you prepare yourself? There's a number of different learning opportunities that are freely available across the net. And you could literally jump onto a Coursera course, and you have the paid option versus the free option. And the direction would be to go to the unpaid option, because you're still developing the skills. If you want to ensure that this is now something on your CV, you then start looking at the certified option with paid option. So those are some of the things you've got to start balancing around in terms of how you then start creating this profile that organizations want of you as an individual. Organizations are constantly hunting around for those critical skills that will meet their specific needs. So as an individual, preparing for that work environment, like I said, understand what those critical skills are, and you can get that out of, well, we in the financial sector. The financial sector will give you a sense of what are the critical skills in the financial sector. If you want to join the engineering sector or any other sector for that matter, go to the different SETAs. They've got their websites. You'll get a sense of what the critical skills are that they're looking for, and you start building those competencies within yourself and represent that onto your CV. And that's what starts placing you ahead of the pack. When I actually just got out of varsity, and I was really struggling to find a job because I was in finance. There were tons of finance individuals. Trying to get an opportunity was difficult. So when I was actually speaking to my mentor at the time, my mentor said to me, you got to think about something. I used to enjoy Formula One. So he said to me, when you look at Formula One, when somebody wins the race, for them to win the race and you know that they are the winner, you look at the podium. They've got a first level, second level, and a third level, and each one higher than the other, getting up to the first position. So if you want yourself to be recognized by different organizations, make sure you're placing yourself on the first level. And that's what then stands you out amongst everyone else. And to get to that first level, what are those critical skills? Build those competencies, and that's what places you in pole position 1. So,
excellent. I think that addresses a lot of the questions that the students were asking. But there's some other issues around the move between moving from varsity and moving from the world at university to the world at work. And what are the expectations, and how can they prepare themselves for that? Because it's a different world.
It is completely different. And I think what is interesting is that you have a generation that's coming through into the workspace where the workspace isn't ready for that generation. So you have managers that are Generation X, stepping away from what used to be the baby boomers. So the Generation X is are taking over, and you've got a trying to deal with the Generation Z that's now coming to the work. Personality is a difference in terms of how leaders at a Generation X would run an organization. So an interesting thing to do is to understand what that generation is all about. What are their expectations when it comes to leading and managing in a work environment? And the one thing that I've learned is when you start analyzing what is across you, it makes your ability to interact with what is across you so much easier. So it's probably one of the things that I would suggest to the colleagues on the line. Start looking at what are those different generations currently in the workplace. Learn and understand what those styles are, whether it's from a leadership or a management perspective, or whether it's from a work organization perspective. Understand the organization that you're looking at as well. Predominantly, where do they sit on that leadership profile? For example, if we had to look at Facebook, Facebook is pretty much a lot of millennials sitting behind it. So you would expect that your leadership and management that sits in there will be pretty much at an X or a Y or a Z level. So pretty much like you as a graduate entering the work environment. Whereas if you step into an Absa as an environment, predominantly X's are now starting to run the organization. So do your homework on the organization you want to apply into. When you're getting into an interview, know exactly the environment that you're stepping into. Speak to different people who you think may work in the organization. So if you do have contacts, or find contacts, and LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. You'll see tons of people that are actually working for a particular organization. Link in with them and try and have a coffee session. Well, now it's going to be a virtual coffee session, but it's an opportunity to understand what is that culture that sits within that organization, and start preparing yourself to manage in that kind of a culture. So my direction is the way you are flexible in your style of operation and leadership and management, that flexibility will help you succeed in whichever environment you want to step into.
I completely agree with you. I think what I'm picking up from what I'm seeing in the chat, as well as what you're saying, is that actually perhaps stepping into the workplace and the fear that these students have is actually a fear of the unknown, and a fear of not a fear that they don't understand what's expected of them. And you've just addressed beautifully ways in which they can address that fear. I think we all have a fear of the unknown.
Yeah. So
let's find a way to cross that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No. So I was just going to agree with you and say you will never know until you get in there. And I've moved a couple of organizations. So it doesn't really matter whether you are first time in an organization versus whether you are actually on your fifth move. It's exactly the same. You will always have that fear. And the one way to get rid of that fear is to actually understand where you want to move into and really learn about that environment before you step into it. And you find many different ways to actually try and learn about that particular environment. And that's the one thing that I've kind of found actually helps me out when I shift from different organizations to from one organization to the next. And there's also that mental ability that you got to have to understand from a mindset perspective that, sometimes they say the grass is greener on the other side. And sometimes it's actually greener because there's a whole lot of brown stuff on the other side. But you don't know that. And the only way to know it is to be brave enough to take that first step. Because if you're not brave enough to take that first step, you will never learn. You will never know what actually sits on the other side. And you've got to be brave enough to manage within that environment. So once you've stepped into it, you've got to very quickly react and be agile to either step out of it or find a way to clean up within that particular context or that particular environment. So your own personal agility, whether it's your learning agility or your mental agility, becomes really critical to being successful in a particular environment where there's an unknown.
I think that actually addresses one of the other questions I had on my list, which has come up so often from the research we did with the grad stars, is what are the qualities of a good employee? You've explained agility, you've explained research, you've explained bravery. What else is important?
Well, I think of a good employee, I think the ability to be able to communicate is really, really important. And I indicated earlier on, you've got to have performance before you have development. And that's the way I kind of see it. Now, in order for you to have good performance, you obviously have to come into the environment, understand what is required of you. And the only way you can understand what is required of you is if you have a good conversation with your line manager. So first up, when you get into an environment, your first question is, what is expected of me? How do you expect me to deliver this, right? What are your standards for performance? So tell me how you are going to measure me on the different deliverables that you provide me with, right? And then it's the regular conversation on par with the objectives that were originally set. So hopefully that kind of gives you a sense that that's another tool that you need in your arsenal, the ability to be able to communicate and well around you. And it doesn't only have to be with your line manager. You're going to have good interrelational skills with people that you work with, because along the way, you are going to need support. So your ability to be able to interact with people in your team, outside of your team, with your line manager, with individuals higher up in the leadership ranks is really critical.
It's all about making a network for yourself, and behaving, maybe not being afraid of being in a corporate space, but behaving as maybe you would in varsity, and not seeing it as using your individual qualities and not seeing it as this big scary step that's terrifying because it's Absa.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think an important thing to also note and understand is you cannot get rid of who you are as a person. So when you step into a work environment, it's critical to bring your true self to the forefront, but then also be agile to adapt to the environment that you're actually in, but never lose who you actually are.
The authenticity. Authenticity is the word that's coming up over and over and over. Stay true to yourself, be yourself, represent yourself honestly, because people can see straight through you if you don't as well, I think.
100%.
The last one I think I've got coming up. Do you think expectations from an organization have changed in the new normal?
So
what is
yes,
the new
definitely.
Normal?
well, you know what, I'll be honest with you. I think we're still actually trying to figure that out. One thing was, so I'll give you an example. I was actually working on an artificial intelligence learning tool. And the tool actually assesses individuals' competencies and then starts recommending learning for that colleague. And it grabs this content off the net. We've curated and mapped it out. And what I'm really trying to say is that the world, especially in the learning space, I've seen change literally overnight. And where I was meant to launch this tool much later in the year, the need and the requirement for it has been pulled up. So we're actually launching it out next week. So the world has fundamentally changed. We're talking internally about different ways to actually employ colleagues. So where we used to have permanent offerings that we would put out, the new thinking is now rather think about contracting colleagues, think about giving colleagues the opportunity to work 3 days a week rather than 4 or 5 days. Allow colleagues to work in more than one organization. So if I offer you a 3-day contract, allow that colleague to go and work at another organization for a further 2 days or further 3 days. So giving a lot more flexibility to individuals, but at the same time, managing the risk from the organizational perspective in terms of high cost of labor and that sort of thing. So the world has fundamentally changed. Ways of how we learn, the ways of how we work, the ways of how we interact really has changed across the board. So, and I'm sure Zani will talk to a little bit of it as well as Chanel.
Excellent. Nishan, I think when we're looking at how to get workplace ready in the new normal, I think you've answered it completely holistically. Do your research, familiarize yourself, be honest, communicate, agile, flexible. All of these things, I think most of us are naturally, but are sometimes scared to give out.
No, that's true. And
so I'd like
the one thing that
go on, please add. I was going to move on, but the space is yours.
All right. No. So I'll just put a final gem in. And this again was said to me very early in my career. The only object of or obstacle in your path is you. So if you don't succeed, it's because of you. And you've got to find every possible way to make yourself succeed.
Absolutely. Take advantage of your opportunities.
100%.
Nishan, thank you. I'd be honored if you join us for the Q&A at the end. I can see the chat is going crazy here, but I think I'll leave them for the Q&A when everybody's had a turn.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, so shall we move on to Chanel? Chanel, are you with us? Chanel is the Senior Specialist for Leadership and Learning. She's an experienced learning and leadership specialist and describes herself as a trailblazer. She's always looking for unique opportunities to create value and impact. Energetic and resourceful, she goes above and beyond her call of duty. Learning is in her blood. That's incredible, Chanel. Always looking for exciting ways to grow and develop personally, spiritually, and professionally. She is passionate about creating the space for others to have aha moments. I think that probably explains why you're here today, Chanel, trying to help the next generation. I think that's a beautiful bio. Welcome. Chanel, I think your audio is also off.
Can you hear me now?
You can. Perfect. So the theme that we had to discuss, another one that was picked up from the student research, and something that I've seen popping up in the chats here during Nishen's presentation, but I know that this is your presentation, is career resilience. What is career resilience, and how do we develop it?
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I was really excited when I got this topic of resilience, because it's something that's been really important to me personally throughout my career. And for me, resilience is really important in the workplace because it's the ability to learn and grow and develop from stress. So it's not just being able to cope with unknown and challenges that come your way in the workplace and uncertainty or setbacks, but it's also the ability to learn from it and grow stronger and healthier and more successful amidst the challenges. So for me, resilience in my career has really helped me to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And especially when I moved from my studies into the working world. I think resilience was able to help me being like quite a perfectionist personality, fearing failure, but putting on a growth resilient mindset really helped me to embrace the learning opportunities and seeing it as a challenge. And realizing that everything in life, with the resources and the networks you have available, that everything is figure outable. So when I think of resilience personally, I always like to think of a palm tree. So, you know, when the winds and the storms come, we've all seen these amazing pictures of a palm tree flexing and bending with the wind. Sorry, and they don't
trying to make it look professional and not have the screen with all the black holes. I thought.
Sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, sorry. Perfect. And so for me, that like resilience with the palm tree. So because palm trees have such a strong root structure, a deep root structure, they have the ability to flex with the winds and storms. And not only that, they're able to use winds and storms to get rid of old dead branches that weren't serving them, so that they can be even more vibrant and healthy. So I thought, since I've got this opportunity, I'd make it super practical. And I'd love to share with you my 3 personal resilience tips that have really helped me in managing my career. Please. So the first one I want to share with you, thank you, is called what I like to call a resilience mantra. So for me, what's helped me is that I find a statement that supports me and inspires me when things get tough or overwhelming. And one of the resilience mantras that I love to use is, all I need is within me now. So wow. The power of a mantra, it comes from how you embed it into your being, because just like a palm tree where you have to have deep roots, you need to code the mantra into your body so that when the tough times hit, you can really use it to generate the energy and the mindset shift and the change in your attitude that you need. So I would literally go and look in my mirror every day and I would repeat the mantra, and I would literally stand there and I would generate the state of absolute certainty and confidence. And I would say, all I need is within me now.
Wow.
All I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but the repetitions really help to hardwire it into your reality. I'd even go so far as to imagine somebody that I really admired or respected, and I would visualize, like, how would they say it? So if I was Oprah Winfrey, how would I breathe? How would I stand? How would I use my body? How would I say it like them? And then I'd stand and I'd say, all I need is within me now. Mm-hmm. And then I'd pretend to be Nelson Mandela. And I know it sounds really silly, but I'd love to really encourage you guys to try it, because the more you embed a mantra and root it into your being, when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, something about saying it just allows you to tap back into your being and into your resourcefulness. So some other examples of resilience mantras that might help you, and maybe finding one that works for you. Another one I love is, everything in life is figure outable. Another one is, I am well able. Another one that I also love is, I have bounced back in me. I bounce back stronger, wiser, and better. So yeah, I really encourage you. That's one of my tips, a resilience mantra, to find a mantra that resonates with you and embed it into your being. So when a setback happens, when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling overwhelmed, that mantra can really pull you out of it and help you to be resourceful again. And then the other two tips I'd love to leave with you. The second one is a resilience ritual. So that's having something that you can do on purpose, that you know will help you to relax, help you to find joy, and help you get your perspective back. Because very often as you transition from studying into work, there's a lot of unknown, there's a lot of uncertainty, and you can feel anxious or stressed. There's expectations that you're not used to. So find something that works for you, that helps you to de-stress and get your perspective back. So for me, what I know works for me is doing like a 10 minutes online yoga class. I love yoga. Or even just picking up the phone and calling one of my friends or one of my sisters. So it can really be anything from exercise to doing a breathing exercise, to belting out your favorite song, or even, taking a bath or praying, if that works for you. Yeah, and so when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, a resilience ritual is just something that you can use to bring you back to your center and back into your being. And then my last tip is magnify the small wins. Very often in such a performance-driven culture, we want to do everything right all the time. We want to exceed our managers' expectations. So I really encourage you, don't wait until the end of the project or the end of the game, or until you have the role that you want. Take time to celebrate the milestones and every step forward that you take. And I encourage you, don't wait for others to praise you. In this life, you need to become your own best cheerleader, and really count and acknowledge every step you make towards your goal. So that's really important as part of resilience, to keep boosting your morale and basically just makes your journey so much more enjoyable. So yeah, those are the 3 resilience tips that I really wanted to share with you that have helped me in my career. The resilience mantra, the resilience ritual, and then magnifying the small wins. So I hope that helps you a little bit.
Looking at this chat, apparently you've just improved the mental health of half of the GradStar Top 500. So absolutely.
Fabulous.
On a serious note, there's so many inspirational comments going on about what you've said. And I can tell there's a huge spiritual element to you, and you have a deep base within your own spiritual element. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how you get that, how you find that, so you can draw upon it when you need it? And I'm sure many of you, not just the young people, like the whole world needs to be able to draw upon that own strength and spirituality now. But if they're feeling a bit lost, where do they find it? There's a big question.
A big question. So I think what's really helped me, I don't know if you guys are not familiar with the work of Anthony Robbins. He wrote a book called Awaken the Giant Within. And he's actually, if you Google it on YouTube, he's got it's like a 10-minute clip called Emotional Flooding. And literally he takes you through a 10-minute exercise where you just get to reflect on everything you're grateful for, everything you appreciate, everything you're proud of, all of your accomplishments, just that thankfulness and that gratitude. And he gets you in a state at that end of that thing where you really are able to connect to your being, to your true self. And even if you are stressed and work pressures, to take that 10 minutes out to just connect with actually how much you've got in your life and how blessed you are. And then from that state, I think it's so much easier to be resourceful. I hope that answers your question, a big question in a little way.
From the chats, absolutely beautiful, being your own cheerleader. Definitely watching the video after this. Thank you so much, Chanel. I'm so inspired. Thank you for the inspiring words. So absolutely. I think I've just got one final question for you. If you were a current grad star top 500 student now in varsity, what is there any advice you would give yourself, your student self, looking back now?
That's an awesome question. I love it. I think the advice I would give myself is go for it. Throw yourself in playfully. Don't be afraid of failure. I think when I was studying and also entering the work field, I was so afraid of, not doing it 100% right, not doing it perfect. And to be honest, just actually taking the step forward, giving it a go. Even if you failed, you get so much learning from failure that is invaluable to make you more successful and better. It's actually a gift when you fail. So my advice would be play full out, go full out, give it a go, try, and be open to the learning and the feedback and use it to make yourself better.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of failure. Bounce back. You've already covered it. Actually, a question from me. Do you use vision boards? Do you believe in the power of vision boards?
Yes, I love vision boards. I love vision boards. Yeah, I actually have stuck on my mirror and on the inside of my cupboard, and they are so powerful. Definitely recommend them.
I agree. And have you noticed that, I created a vision board at the beginning of the year, and what the world looks like now is not what I expected in January. But weirdly, in a very different way, I'm still seeing a lot of the symbols come through. Are you finding that at all?
Yeah, definitely. The power of setting your intention in a vision board, I think, when you put something out into the universe, I do believe that you are co-creating your future. So I definitely believe in that.
Chanel, thank you. What a beautiful balance to Nishen's presentation. I'm going to try to bring Zani back on now because I've got to keep an eye on the time. Let's hope she can hear. And we'll see you back for the Q&A. Zani, can you join us?
I can hear now. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. I'm so delighted. Yes, I did read your bio, but I'll just cover quickly again. It says on the you're actually the group lead for talent management at Absa with 22 years of experience in the HR field. Zani, I think you can answer all the questions that these young people need to know. 22 years in the HR field. Well done.
I'm still asking questions myself.
Aren't we all? So multiple destinations, 15 corporations. Goodness me. Well, your wealth of experience. Students, take the moment to access this incredible lady with this incredible experience. How often are you going to have this chance? But Zani, the subject we were going to cover is future skills, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about how this is playing out in the organization.
Thank you very much. What a great opportunity. And I'm always so excited to be with my colleague like Chanel and Shen. Always learn a lot from them. When we talk future skills, it's an interesting one because future implies we've not heard of them before, we've not seen them before, they either don't exist, we still need to research and find them. But a lot of the skills that we need today, and I think the future is today, are things that we've probably heard our grandparents or our mothers tell us about. A lot of things, I think Nishen already mentioned communication. If I reflect on the years and I reflect on a lot of the professionals I work on, because I'm also in coaching, is the art of networking. Collaboration and networking is probably one of the most key skills you need. So when I say future, I'm actually mentioning it in the context of immediate relevance. If I look at how careers are formed nowadays, a lot of them are formed through collaboration. Networking is a skill you need to be able to access those career opportunities, to be able to access those resources that are going to support you, either from just research you need to do, doors that need to open, or being able to master whatever you're doing in the field that you're doing it in. So I think for me, that's definitely number one. The second one is going to be more around the human side of things. You know, we are talking about automation, robotics, etc. But remember, you can only program a machine so much. You're still going to need the interpersonal skills around empathy and being able to understand human dynamics to be effective, whether you're going to be a leader, whether you're going to be influencing people, teams, one or two, whether it's going to be how you're going to connect with the environment. Being able to have empathy is going to be very important, and I think influence as well. So you'll find a lot of these future skills tend to talk about a lot of the leadership qualities that we tend to have probably underemphasized and have used terms that almost make them not as important. So we use the term or the phrase soft skills. And typically in corporate, when you use soft skills, it almost implies it's not tough enough, it's not good enough, it's not relevant enough. And now we're finding a lot of people are succeeding when they have those qualities, and also succeeding in a sustainable way, and building lots of legacies and track records for themselves. Because remember, when you enter the marketplace, it's about the memories that you leave, it's about the legacies you leave, because those networks are going to be your leverages for future. So 10 years from now, whoever you knew today, you may need them in 10 years' time. You know, some of the opportunities I've had have only been mostly through networking. I think 75% of my career opportunities have not been through a formal job application, both in London and in South Africa. So I can talk about those different countries and confidently talk about those future skills in that context. I hope that helps for now, but that's what I wanted to start with as a conversation here.
Absolutely. I think I'd like to just come back to networking, because we all know when we know we have to network. But like, and I've got Dineo here, Dineo Magakwa has just asked the same question I was going to ask you. What if you're an introvert and you find networking challenging? Or what if you feel that you're junior and you want to access your networks to more senior people? Is there a best way to go about that without appearing full of yourself?
What a great question. Practice, 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 practice. So you've got to start somewhere. That mentor that you've always wanted, that celebrity that you look up to, is not going to come to you. So the first thing you do is put yourself out there, reach out. If you're an introvert, the only way you're going to balance yourself and use a bit of the extrovertedness, because we all have it in ourselves, it's about accessing what we typically don't use naturally, is practice. You know, sometimes we feel a bit shy. You know, when you're a crowd and you're surrounded by amazing people, even this session alone, if you don't reach out to people, here's a tip. If after this, you're not going to LinkedIn and sending any one of us a message or trying to connect with us and say, Zani, I heard you speaking at the Grad Star event. You know, those are the things that I'm talking about when I say practice and reach out. I think it's going to be a very challenging and difficult journey ahead if a lot of the things from a networking perspective, you're expecting them to come to you. So my recommendation is to read, to practice. You can only learn from those mistakes or mishaps that you may have. You can only learn if you try. It doesn't hurt to reach out. And the good news for you is that this is something you're always going to have to use. So now's a good time to start. So even if you are an introvert, believe me, once you start that practicing, you'll find that it's actually something you always had. You just never accessed it as often as you should.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a question here from Untitled. Is it okay to have a planned out way of approaching people in order to build your network? I know I would probably say absolutely, but
it's always good to have a plan. You know, a plan sometimes gives us the confidence, gives us the surety that actually I can do this and it's going to go well. The only thing with a plan is be open and be flexible to your plan not going according to your plan, and make that part of your learnings that actually I thought it would go this way, but it's actually gone that way. Let that be a contribution to how you can do it differently next time. So back to Chanel's lessons, resilience is going to be needed if your plan doesn't work, but absolutely the planning helps. And remember, when the mentor, whoever you approach from a networking perspective, recognizes how serious and focused you are, they may actually pay attention to you. So I would support a plan, any good plan, from my perspective.
Absolutely. And going back to Nishan, it's about agility, adaptability. If it doesn't work, keep going, but the bouncing back from the previous speaker. What I also wanted to add, I think, from my perspective to everybody in the audience, if you're going to approach a mentor, you're going to take that time and you're going to ask someone to give time to you. Would you like to could you cover for us a little bit about how the responsibility of that relationship lies with the mentee? It's not the mentor's relationship to make it's not the mentor's responsibility to make this happen. But if you've requested this relationship, then it's your responsibility. And how can they continue to action that? I know that a lot of mentor-mentee relationships, hi, yes, I'd love to, and then they kind of fizzle out. What would be the best way to keep that going? Maybe I think we lost Sonia again, but that's, are you back, Sonia? Okay, so I think there's a few connection issues, but it is also, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, apologies for that. I was saying mentors are actually great resources to access. So from my side, I'd absolutely agree that, remember, in a mentoring relationship, it's yourself as the mentee that has to shape it, and you're the one that has to find creative ways to access it and, as you say, maintain it. For me, it's about using the relationship in a way that will show you up that you've actually quite focused and you've applied your mind around what it is that you're trying to achieve. I think going to a mentor and expecting the mentor to have the answers for you is probably also not going to give you the results that you're looking for. So my suggestion is, when you do access a mentor, it's being curious enough to be able to ask the questions and come with ideas, test the thinking, and also offer. One of the best materials I've come across is, when you do connect with a mentor, also give them something that they can go away and chew on. So it becomes a reciprocal, mutual relationship, and it's not always one way.
I think that really helps when a lot of people, I know I certainly do, suffer from, is it imposter syndrome or a guilt syndrome? That why would this person want to give? Do I deserve it? Why are they giving? And it's hard to give your best when you're struggling under that, under those thoughts. So if you're giving back as well and giving them a reason to be there, then I think you can move forward through that. Tato says, may you please describe the moment your networks catapulted you into success? Wow.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I've been using networks from the very first day of working. I remember I was 16 years old in high school. And, you know, I had friends and friends of a friend needed somebody at some travel agency to come in and just do, you know, work on the switchboard. And I put my hands up, because that's how you start networks as well, is volunteer yourself and keep your ear on the ground. And when opportunities come, sometimes they're not presented as the obvious opportunity, but it could be a door to another opportunity. So a door leading to a door leading to a door. So always open yourself up. And so since that day, I remember sitting at Rennie's Travel on the switchboard thinking, you know what, just because I, was curious enough and put up my hand, I now am earning an income at the age of 16. And I remember working at Anglo American as an intern. And one of the senior, I remember those big offices and these tall people, everybody seemed so tall back then. And I remember one of the senior managers in the kitchen preparing coffee for herself. And I just went over to her and started having a conversation, asking her, what is it that she does? I was just always asking her questions. The next thing, I was invited, I remember being in a car with her and her taking me to one of her presentations to her executive, and so on. And I've kept those relationships since then. So from that time, when I was 21, I'm still leveraging those networks, still using them to both benefits. So I found over the years, my mentors have been approaching me for support, and being able to also find employment in London. I was able to work for companies like Unilever and Barclays in the big city like London, and where you could just be a number, and I was still able to access those great career opportunities. So for me, that's how the mentors and networks helped me from that perspective. I hope that helps, but happy to keep answering if the questions are not answered.
Absolutely. I think what I picked up from that answer is something that I know, but I don't remember all the time, is that people love talking about themselves. They love talking about their experience. They love sharing. So ask. And that's how you get through a lot of the introvertness, a lot of the fear. Just ask and people will talk. 10 minutes left. Should we move to a Q&A? Can I ask everybody to come back up onto the screen? And I've got, there's a 1,000,001 questions, but let's pick out a few and see where we can go to from here. Welcome back, everybody. I think a big question is, with interviews changing right now, everything moving virtually, maybe it'll go back, maybe it won't, who really knows? But what do employers most look for in an interview? I don't know who wants to answer that.
I'm happy to take it. I heard half of the question. Are you able to repeat it?
What qualities do employers most look for in an interview? Is it skills? Is it EQ? Is it what gives you that standout factor?
Yeah, I think employers are starting to look for experiences. They're starting to look and see whether you've been able to take advantage of opportunities around you, because in the world of work, not everything's going to be structured for you and laid out perfectly for you, but they are starting to look for more proactive individuals that, it's not your PhD or your master's that's going to help necessarily, but it's your track record around how you've been able to maximize opportunities around you, and be resourceful. Going forward, employers are starting to ask a lot more contributions from individuals. And so you'll find that when opportunities come, or when you go into an interview, for example, you'd be expected to talk a lot more around how you've made difficult situations work, how you've been able to overcome challenges, how you've been able to plan success for yourself, because a lot of those things can't be taught in a PhD or a master's. And so the way to separate yourself from the rest in an interview is to be able to provide those examples for them.
And those examples, I imagine, can be very small from your personal life. Maybe the way you've dealt with the personal situation, a sibling, something small that came around the corner, but just showing a little bit of resilience and applying your own self to the real world, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, and the more balanced you show, the better. Absolutely.
Awesome. So it's not just about, of course it's important, but it's not just about getting the top grades, doing all the courses. Nowadays, employers are looking for a more holistic individual, which I think Chanel covered beautifully.
Absolutely.
And a big question here. A lot of the graduates are quite scared about what they thought employment would be and what it is now. I mean, you've mentioned, there was a mention of 3-day week, a mention contract work, but also there's a concern about remote environments. How do they navigate a brand new role, a brand new organization, a brand new life shift in remote environments. I imagine employers have got lots of processes in place to assist with support.
I think from my perspective, I think the good news is that we're all in this together. So both as an employer and looking at myself as somebody who is still very active in the world of work, we're all in this together trying to figure out this so-called new normal. And the advantage of that is that there's lots of opportunities to innovate and be creative. So for me, it's around how can you make suggestions? How can you come up with ideas and present it to the employer? You know, if you go to an interview, if you're working for somebody right now, the more initiative and ideas you present around how we make sense of what isn't so obviously obvious to us is going to be one of the things that will set you apart and make some of these challenges quite easy to navigate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a question directed at Chanel. How you mentioned learning and developing from stress and growing stronger. Have you found that this time of Corona, this time of shutdown, is a time when you've been able to do that? Have you maximized upon it? Is it an opportunity?
Yes, definitely. It really is an opportunity because we definitely are in an uncertain time, and there's a lot of stuff up in the air and the way we're operating. I'm also still studying at the moment, so I work full time and I'm doing my master's part time. So even learning is changing as well. So for me, it's more important than ever before to really take the time to check in with yourself and have your resourcefulness toolkit where you've got tools that you can pull out for yourself to keep yourself positive, optimistic, resilient and robust. I think for now, attitude and mindset is more important than ever before, and really it's a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your own internal resources, rely on yourself. But there's a few questions about what the corporate responsibility is in this time, and what kind of programs you have to ensure your employees' mental wellness and mental health, and what kind of communication channels you have in this time. Can someone tell me a little bit about Absa's response to this world?
So Nishan can probably go into a bit more detail, but one of the things that we are launching, and we started it during lockdown, is we've partnered with a company called Mindful Revolution, and we've been offering weekly mindfulness practices to all of our staff. So we piloted in the people and culture function, and as of this month, it'll be open to the whole of Absa within Africa and South Africa. And it's really an opportunity where our staff get to actually practice things like mindfulness. So it's virtual meditations. It's, checking in and talking about stuff that's personal as well as work related, because you're a whole being that shows up at work. So we definitely at Absa, one of the avenues we've created that space for is through these mindfulness sessions. Nishan, I don't know if you want to add anything from a Absa Digital Campus point of view.
Louise. We can't hear you, Nishan. I think he's struggling with connectivity again, perhaps. No worries, we're actually on time anyway. And I'm sure if anybody wants to find out about that, then if you can just drop us a note, drop us an email, I'm sure Nishan would be delighted just to give you a bit more understanding of what that is to offer. But as we're on time, I think the time's gone quickly and beautifully. Thank you very much. Does anybody have a parting words of wisdom to leave for the students? Maybe one each. What advice would you give to them right now, sitting here? What advice can you give them in one sentence or two?
I think
for me,
definitely. Go ahead, Chanel.
No, go Zani, go first.
I think what comes to mind for me is being brave and having courage. Go to the untried waters. Don't always go for what looks glamorous. A lot of the opportunities are, you know, like a rough diamond. You've got to go find it, and you can polish it later. So go and don't always just seize what looks glamorous. You may be surprised what you find.
Awesome. And Chanel?
For me, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote, and it says, "It is your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop."
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nishan, do you have audio? I can't hear you now. Try click. No, I'm sure Nishan has many words of wisdom. If you dropped me an email, I'll share it with all the attendees after. I was at the last thing I would like to leave everybody with is a word of wisdom that I got in the previous webinar from the chairperson of BP. Build the plane as you fly it. Nobody has the answers. Build the plane as you fly it. And I make that 301. So ladies and Nishen, thank you so much. I think it's a beautiful success. I can tell by the chat, so I can tell by the way the time flew by. Absa, thank you for giving your time to the Grad Stars. And we will forward the chats to you as well. And I expect you to get many LinkedIn requests after this. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.